Hello and welcome to another live edition of the Nittany Dispatch. I'm John Sauber, Penn State beat writer at the Center Daily Times. She is Audrey Snyder doing the same at InsideTheLines.substack.com. And we are in our last episode before the season preview. Audrey, it's here.
This is it?
Yes, this is it.
Wow. Went so fast.
Yeah, it is terrifying. It is, I will say, it does feel weird that there are games this weekend. Right, you have
week
TCU,
0.
North Carolina. Yeah, you have, I think, NC State, Virginia is this weekend too.
Mm-hmm.
So I will get to sit down and enjoy some college football, or I'll be on the golf course in all likelihood instead of doing
John,
that.
it's a beautiful night tonight. I'm surprised you're not.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Audrey is the reason that I'm not on the golf course. We could have gone live at 3 p.m., but Audrey was adamant that I didn't get to
God forbid we had set times that we agree to days in advance. One of us confirms the times on Sundays when she makes her schedule, and then somebody goes, "Hey, why don't I just golf today?" So here we are. But John, once again though, it took some persuasion, but you chose the show over a night on the course. Beautiful night too. Really beautiful.
All right, I'll end the show right now, and I'll just go to the driveway.
And that's the show, folks.
Yeah, but no, we are going to talk about the defense a little bit today. We talked about Rocco Becht quite a bit on the last episode, and then he went viral for a very innocuous
Can we talk about that? Should we talk about that?
I don't think we did talk about it.
We didn't talk about it. No, it didn't happen.
Yeah, I just don't care. Right, like he graduated with his degree already. I saw one account was tweeting that it was a custom course for Rocco, but that account always tweets out bullshit, and so it's not surprising that it did it again.
You mean the internet twisted things and lied to us, John? What?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I mean, Rocco is taking one class this semester. It's an online course. He graduated already. This is not a big deal. This is a thing that has happened for a long time in college football, especially with graduates. It's not like new to the modern era of college football. The football season is always light on the class load for all these guys, as light as humanly possible. And a lot of them work on graduating early, so it can be like this.
So here's what I'll add to this. 2 things. One, like obviously there was a plan in place for Rocco Becht to get to Iowa State and graduate in time and graduate early. Like that was something that his family was really proactive about. And this goes back to when he was in high school, right? And I have some reporting around that for a story that I'm working on, which didn't think we'd be going down the academic rabbit hole, John, but here we are. On top of that, all right, so we've got that side. The guy already has his degree, but the internet kind of parsed the clip, some accounts, and lied to us. Did people forget? They must have. When we had a much smaller conversation last year when James Franklin said several times, hey, this is the reward for Drew Aller already graduating, that he gets to take a light course load as a senior. And if memory serves correct, I don't think Drew was in person for a class last year. Like a lot of these guys, and this has become kind of more popular since COVID and online classes and all those things. A lot of these guys aren't in person classes, and that's just the state of the world. I mean, you'll have students at Penn State that are here, living here, taking some online classes and some in person, right? Like that's just, actually, there was a really good
I mean,
story.
I did that when I was a senior at Penn State back in 2016, 17.
You were that guy, John?
I mean, some of them. It was a convenience thing with my schedule. Like I couldn't.
John didn't want to leave his apartment.
I mean, a little bit of that, but partially like I couldn't fit it in with the schedule I had. So this was.
You're afraid you get lost? Classes. Yeah.
No, I was never afraid I would get lost. But yeah, like that's just, it's been like that for a long time. This is not anything new.
There was a really good story back spring, summer. I want to say maybe Wall Street Journal did a piece about different students, and I'm not even talking athletes, I'm just talking students that are willing to go and move to college campuses to take online courses elsewhere, to say, hypothetically, live in Gainesville, but they didn't get into Florida, so they're taking it online classes for some other school, but living there in that community trying to get that experience. So again, like this is not your father or your grandfather's higher ed, like it is totally different. But yeah, I thought the response to that was insane. And quite frankly, like, don't care. Like genuinely, It's one of those, he has a degree. And here's the thing, you can always go back to school. People always forget about that part. Like you can always go back later. So it's the 36-year-old who just did her master's degree.
Yeah. And well, these guys, especially, I believe the scholarship lasts forever, essentially, like that.
And oftentimes, the universities will take care of these guys and, they can come back later. Yeah.
Well, and I think part of the reason this became such an ordeal, and maybe we can have this discussion now, is because of the idea of guys going pro and then coming back, right? Like there's this like the professionalization of college sports has become more and more of a hot topic. Fortunately, it seems that a lot of these conferences are getting out in front of an issue that I don't think was going to be a long-term issue anyways. This is like a very unique this year class of 2022 situation because those guys are essentially fighting to be grandfathered into a role, and be able to play a fifth year. Yeah. And so it's like a very unique situation that I think everyone is up in arms over. If it does, like, let's say someone like Daquan Wright, like at Ole Miss, who's planning to play at LSU, if he were to do that, then it's not like this can happen again next year because it's just not how it works, right? Like all of those guys would have still been at school. And I will say too, like every conference that is relevant is seemingly passing legislation to
Big Ten came out today. Yep.
The SEC did not long before we went live too, saying that. And there are still going to be guys, by the way, that went to rookie minicamp and playing. Trent Hedrick at UCLA is going to be eligible because he didn't sign a contract. He went to rookie minicamp, was only in the draft because he had exhausted eligibility. Like he didn't have to, enter the draft as an underclassman. So he had exhausted all of his eligibility through his 4 years, is getting an extra year because he didn't sign with an NFL team. So technically he was at an NFL minicamp and was an NFL player, if you will, but will be eligible even with the new adjustments that these conferences are making. So all of that is to say, I think everybody needs to take a deep breath. It is becoming an enormous ordeal when it is like a 1 year situation, right? Like this is only honestly, because of the 2022 class.
It's probably not even going to be a big deal too. That's going to be the other thing. Like,
well,
I think there's the whole, we know from a Penn State perspective, it's not going to change from the like,
yes,
Liam Clifford ain't coming back, John. I hate to be the one to break it to you.
Well, Liam redshirted, didn't he?
Well, he also he's in camp right now.
Yeah, but he wasn't in that class of 2022. That's my point. Right?
He's not coming back. Don't try to find loopholes, John.
Yeah. But I'm saying like all of the class of 2022 guys for Penn State, it's like Drew Aller and Dennis Sutton and Kaytron Allen. Like they're not coming back to Penn State. Like they're on NFL teams firmly.
Yeah.
And so I just think,
but again, Matt Campbell's not going after these guys anyway. So like,
yes. Now he's not, but they, like every team and every program, did their due diligence on the situation to see the logistics of it before coming to that conclusion, right? Like he said publicly when I asked him about it that no, they're not going to be adding anybody. But yeah, like every team and every program in the country is going to do their due diligence and figure out what's going on. I just think like we were going to see LSU sort of push it to the limit,
of course,
in every way they can. And
Shocker.
I will be curious to see how they react on that front. But yeah, I don't know. I think everyone sort of was getting a little too upset about the situation and acting as if it was the death of college athletics. It was weird for sure. Like it's odd to hear someone was in a preseason game and then could be in college, but it's also like this is a 1 year window. Unless there's a 6th year of eligibility coming for all athletes, like it wasn't going to be a thing that happened year over year.
Don't say that, John.
Yeah, true. I mean, who knows at this point what it's going to turn into. But let's get to what we are actually planning to talk about today, and that is the Penn State defense.
Well, let's start with Matt Campbell. We talked today, last time this preseason. Then we'll get to the defense. I thought it was kind of light from a news perspective with Matt Campbell. There wasn't anything super pressing. We will hear from him next on Tuesday, so 1 week from today, which is the week 1 press conference. Yeah, but that's about Victory Day. That's not about football. Yeah, but it's not a day for. Again, John, we're arguing semantics here. So again, the next football-specific related press conference will be next Tuesday. Yeah, because again, the press conference is Tuesdays again, not Mondays. So there's that. So you got to adjust your programming.
Yeah, those who want to tune in, Matt Campbell will be live on Tuesdays, much like James Franklin was for most of his tenure. Until a loss to Ohio State then shifted that.
Changed everything.
Mondays. Yes.
Let's just throw a wrench in everyone's schedule in the middle of the season because we're not overreacting to a loss around here. No.
That's right.
So the press conference will be on Tuesdays. The thing that I thought was most important today from Campbell was that he hit on some guys who he said are back practicing, right? He mentioned that Jeremiah Cooper was on the field today. We, as in the media, we didn't see any practice this week. We won't. This is like the end of preseason. They're ramping up for game week, so we don't get eyes on these guys right now. But he mentioned Jeremiah Cooper being back. He mentioned Zion Tracy on the field, but working through a hand issue. Did you catch that, John? Because you had to really kind of listen because he was giving a long answer.
Yes, I was. That was as I was settling in, if you will. But yes,
Yes, we did find out this preseason, and I think we started to see it a little bit in the spring. Usually Matt Campbell is like very early to things. Is kind of what
usually so are we.
And yes, and today we were all, or I was. Can't speak on everyone on this show, but I was 15 minutes early, and he was already getting ready to start.
Yeah, I was 12 minutes early, and I was 3 minutes late. So
yeah, 12 minutes exactly. Yeah, so we're like, it's not Coughlin time, it's Campbell time here, and we're just all along for the ride. But yeah, I thought the guys being available. I think from a health standpoint, he mentioned that Darius Dixon was back, doing some stuff today. Also was part of the scrimmage on Saturday, their second scrimmage. I think, John, from a like health perspective, they're in a really good spot just in terms of there hasn't been anything catastrophic this preseason. Yes, you'd like to have your full assortment of tight ends available for week one. Not the end of the world if they aren't. I think in terms of guys recovering, you look at Max Granville, like sure, there's probably going to be a bit of an easing in period in games for some of these guys and Jeremiah Cooper, but like there wasn't anybody that that we lost for the year in week 0, right? Or not anybody that you lost in August. Like that to me is like we're trying to put these pieces together. It's like, they're in a good spot.
Yeah, and I think that's the important caveat, right? That not everybody will be ready for week 1 against Marshall. I don't think they need to be. I think the plan is Matt Campbell always says slow and right, and I think that's sort of what they're looking at with these guys that are either recovering from long-term injuries previously or dealing with bumps and bruises, as James loved to call them. I think someone like Gabe Burkle, we'll see when he makes his debut in a Penn State uniform. I don't know that I expect that to be against Marshall. It's possible, but he's been working toward that. I don't think he's the only tight end in that situation, but I would, right now, I would think that Ben Bramer and Andrew Rapplier would feature heavily in week 1 there. And so I think, they need to get reps for these guys. They're important. These first 3 games are important. Penn State should win all 3 of the games. I know nobody wants to look ahead and
oh boy.
Yeah, right. But I think, the important thing is getting through those 3 games healthy and sort of understanding your team and figuring out what you have, what your identity is going to be on both sides of the ball, how you're playing, and those sorts of things. And does that mean that everyone's going to be available? No. But does it mean that everyone will have their best chance of playing against Wisconsin? Yes. And I think that should be the priority for a team that is good enough to win those 3 games, even without some key pieces, as long as, they have their quarterback and they have their 2 play callers on both sides of the ball.
John, as you went through that and you just brushed right ahead, jumped the gun, went right to Wisconsin, I had a completely different thought. I had the thought that said, excuse me, I promise I'll bring it back to Penn State. Is James Franklin going to send out the 1-0 each week tweet at Virginia Tech? Because everything else has been the same. Like, are we getting 100%. One of those?
Yes,
on like 100%. Sunday, Monday? I'm gonna have to turn Twitter notifications back on for the guy just to see.
No matter how much we try and to buy or bid on the flag with the 1-0 on it, he is still retained the saying. I'll say it that way. And
I'm just curious because we know Matt Campbell won't be tweeting anything about it. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, to your point of who's available, who's not week 1, doesn't really matter. You want to see how these guys respond to game reps. We had talked a little bit last week about, non-conference play. What do the snap counts look like? Because that really can kind of help us tell the story. I do think there were some other, if you're reading between the lines here, which is what we do, which is what we get paid to do. Matt Campbell was shouting out players that he was asked, kind of who's impressed you, who have been some MVPs, and it was a 4-minute answer. But during that answer, he mentioned that he thought Malachi Goodman had a really nice preseason, which again, I still fully expect that he's the left tackle. He also said in there, what else stood out to me? Goodman was one. I mean, it was literally like I was kind of going through my head. I'm like, who didn't he name? Who else? Or were you still settling in at that part?
Who didn't he name is the better way to put it. I think.
But no, the Malachi Goodman part stood out to me because I was like, okay, like this aligns with what we had saw, what we had heard, what we had thought. So I thought that was.
He said Goodman, and I believe it was Trevor Bohr were the 2 first linemen he mentioned, and I think Riker was 3rd.
Let me see, John. Let me see, because I wrote this. I should remember this. And that's where he had mentioned that Darius Dixon was back at practice. Cooper Carson Hansen was back at practice. Brett Eskelson was back at practice. He shouted out Max Granville. But yeah, those were kind of the big ones that stood out to me a little bit. Is just kind of like that left side of the line, which again, I think we're all going to have our eyes probably fixed there pretty strongly next Saturday afternoon. To me, that's like a good sign in terms of what you want to hear at this point of the year. He also shouted out Alex Mansky, who he said done a nice job this preseason. We talked a lot about him last week and kind of his path back. But yeah, it was kind of pretty light on the front from Matt Campbell. Then we also talked with Danton Lynn today, which let's talk about this defense, John. Where shall we start?
We do. Would you like to tell everyone about our good friends over at Roback?
I guess I don't have a choice. Because you're wearing the hat, John.
That's
You've got the Roback hat on.
We're Roback polos Saturday and Sunday on the golf course.
You didn't wear one to golf tonight?
Yeah,
sorry,
I will leave the show.
Our friends at Roback can help you save 20% off of your first purchase with code TND20. That's TND20 on roback.com. You can dress like John. You can dress like Rocco Becht. You can get in on their Penn State collection, which has been refreshed for the new season. So new era Penn State football. You have a new and refreshed Roback line as well. And again, that's code TND20 at roback.com.
One quick mention. I want to shout out the listener who came up and said hello at the Hublersburg Inn after I was golfing on Sunday. It was a very kind gentleman who said, he's an avid watcher of the show. We appreciate everyone. And I'm slowly improving. Less deer in the headlights this time around. I was a little bit better at not being terrified at.
I wasn't there. I can't speak to it. Wasn't there to see it. Wasn't there.
Right. But yeah, shout out to everyone who is, always watching, listening. We appreciate you guys. Very appreciative of the questions too in the chat, which we will also get to later.
Well, before we do that, I have a question for John that someone posed to me that I wanted to bring up now because I will definitely forget later in the show. And because we're going to talk about the defense after this is an offense question. And the question is this. And it was designed for, they couldn't remember which one of us was more out on Ethan Grunkemeyer last year than the other one, which was John. He was the one who wasn't as much of a believer as I was.
Although, admittedly, I started to come around as
you came around. Yeah. But the question was, John, at this point or at preseason last year, you have that Ethan Grunkemeyer, right? You have that guy. You have Alex Mansky this year preseason that we're all saying, you and I included, I'm in on this one. I was in on the last one, but we're both in on this one, saying this looks like the quarterback of the future. The gentleman's question was, John, what is different for you this year that you're in on Mansky, but you weren't in on Grunkemeyer at this point last year? I will say, for me, part of it is that we've seen more this year, this preseason. Like we actually got eyes on these guys for 4 practices, which I think was invaluable, especially with Mansky. Like I think that was a big part of it, for me at least, being more sold on him. But John, is there anything else that you would like to add since you were more out on Grunk this time last year than I was?
I think I'm going to send a text to you real quick. Sorry about that.
Yeah, sorry, John. It's just, holding conversations, probably rescheduling tea times.
Yeah, no, I promise you, if I had scheduled the tea time, I wouldn't be here. That is usually how these things go. What you mentioned is a good point, right? The access part of this is always at play. We have gotten more of a chance to see Alex Mansky and then we did Ethan Grunkemeyer. Admittedly, I saw obviously Grunkemeyer more in high school. We actually went out to one of his games. I think it was his senior night. We went and watched him play. But yeah, I think the chance to see Mansky in the environment is helpful. You talk to more people, the confidence, I would say, that's being projected sort of aligns with that. Whereas I'm not saying that last year's staff wasn't confident in Ethan Grunkemeyer, but you're really hearing the confidence, in Mansky right now from the staff. Maybe it's just how they are. Maybe it's different than that, but I tend to believe that they really do firmly believe this, that he is the guy moving forward. And part of it is like just from watching it, I think he's better than what I saw from Grunkemeyer, what I had at the time, and even from those first few games, right, that Grunkemeyer played. to Ethan's credit, he got a lot better as the season progressed last year. Is a surefire power 4 starter. I think he's going to be a draftable prospect when he decides to go into the NFL. I think he has all the tools, a ton of arm strength there, and I think he's very, very good. But I think Mansky is. I've just seen more than I did from Grunk at that point. I think he is a better athlete too. I think that's probably the other thing that stands out. He is an unbelievable athlete from everything we've heard. But yeah, I think it's just part of it is more access to more information, right? It's easier to say, definitively what I believe when I have that level of information. It's harder for me to say, because what we don't want to do is come on here and say something like with a ton of confidence when we don't know if it's true or not, right? Or if we don't have the information to back it up.
We could play all of John's receiver hype clips over the years.
All of those things are things I believe. Him. Yes, which is a little terrifying. But that's from, and I think part of this too with that is that was based on what I was watching, right? And it was admittedly, sometimes you get people that aren't as forthright with those sorts of things, right? And it's a little bit tougher to paint the full picture. And so you're trying to parse through the information you're getting and who you're getting it from and all that stuff. And so I think I've been able to sort of paint a fuller picture of Alex Mansky. And that's kind of allowed me to form a fuller opinion too. And has allowed me to be a little more convicted in that belief. And I don't even know that I was out on Grunkemeyer as much as I think it was an I don't know, right? I consistently I'm pretty sure I consistently said I don't know if he's the quarterback of the future, and I think that was interpreted as he's definitely not.
No, I think it was they'll be hitting the portal for a quarterback in 26.
I think I said stuff like that, yes, but I also think that was after we'd seen him play, right? And the first few games were not good because they weren't. And I think
the world was crashing and burning, and it was a real disaster. We're quarterback's not here, guys.
Well, it sure seemed like it, those first three
losses. The offense was a very bad watch for sure.
And now there was, as we know, a lot of reasons why that happened. But yeah, to Ethan's credit, he got a lot better.
And the guy you saw in the Pinstripe Bowl was not the same guy that we saw in non-conference play. And that's
to the point that, I think I would still take Becht and Mansky over him. But if you're talking about just 1-to-1, any of those guys, I would probably take Becht over Grunkemeyer, and I would probably take Mansky over Grunkemeyer. But I don't think it's a blowout in either direction. And I think that is crucial here, right? That Grunkemeyer is on that level. But I think Mansky is I firmly believe in all of the upside. I think
John,
an unbelievable athlete for that position.
I'm going to keep tapping into all the Franklinisms this year. You know what? We reserve the right to improve. That's another one.
Right. Well, that's the thing too. Opinions change because we get more information, right? And players get better and players get worse and all sorts of that stuff. So yeah, I just think that that is one of those things that you change your mind as you see something different. And I changed my mind on Grunkemeyer, and I'm sure I'll be changing my mind on plenty of players this season progresses too, as we get game footage of them.
And everyone will hold you to it because that's what we do here. We're showing accountability. And if you're tuned in tonight, do not miss Thursday. We'll be live 7 p.m. Eastern time, right, John? Just so we're clear, crystal clear. 7 p.m. Thursday.
We will be live at 7 p.m. on the dot. On Thursday, because we may be live for 2 hours. Who's to say?
It's the season preview extravaganza. John had me start completing a game, so I had to do some homework, maybe do some homework.
That's right.
To which I said, I don't understand how this game works. To which he said, this is the same thing we did last year. And then I said, oh, I still don't understand how it works. But I got the rules figured out this time, so I have a chance to win this year. Or so we think. But yeah, we were very excited about our season preview. We're going to cover everything with this team. We also will look at our projected brackets for the 12-team college football playoff because we love being right and wrong on here. And we will be sure to track these things throughout the year, just like we always do, because we're nothing if not accountable on this show. Right, John?
That's right. Audrey, who still owes me karaoke from last year's.
You can pick a song or a place. I was down. I was totally down. Well, now I can't just walk in and do a Dolly Parton song anywhere. People are going to be sad. You gotta. You missed the mo. I could. I mean, it's right in my wheelhouse. Yeah.
The problem is, I think we were expecting to do something like that with the rest of the beat on the bull trip.
Playoff
And
run.
there was there was no playoff run to speak of. So we didn't have as many opportunities as anticipated.
It's tough for either of us to take a victory lap on a year in which the whole thing was like, we think Penn State's going to make the national championship game. And then it ends in a coaching search and just complete shit show. So you can't really, not much of a victory lap to take there for either of us. But this year's going to be different. That should be the slogan for the Nittany Dispatch preview show. This year's going to be different. So again, that's coming up Thursday at 7 p.m. But John, this defense,
yes,
I'm intrigued. And that
Sorry,
I think
there's a comment in the says the PSU versus Virginia Tech Duke's Mayo Bowl is going to be must-see TV. It just made me laugh.
I mean, here's the thing. Like, can you imagine? That's compelling. Just like this defense. And I think I came into the preseason with questions with this defensive line, and I was like, I just don't know if they have the edge rushers. I don't know, these defensive tackles are bigger, but how do they actually look? Because these are guys who, you talk about experience on the interior. You've got a defensive tackle playing his 8th season of college football. Then you also have a 6th-year senior. Like, that to me is pretty wild. But I'll get into more of that later this week on Inside the Lions as I outline kind of their unique stories, because they're fascinating, and these are guys that I think Penn State fans are really going to want to pull for, because they have had difficult roads to get here, to stay healthy. So much just has to line up for a player to be able to kind of get in this position and feel good going into a season, and that's where this defensive line is at. But we talk about health, and we talk about Max Granville coming back and saying, okay, the thing that stands out to me is, like, I don't think there's one guy up front that we're going to say, man, this is the guy who's going to break a game open. This is the guy who's going to be able to flip a game on its head. But I do think there's depth. I do think there's talent. We've heard a lot about the bigger bodies along the interior and how they've, proven to be problematic for this offense, which I don't want to, create panic, but like, that is a theme. And again, some of that is just also for us not having seen defensive tackles this large around here in a very, very long time, if ever, in my time on the beat. It is different in that regard. So so my impression starts up front, and that I think this is probably how you should have been built for a long time in the Big Ten. And we can point to it and say Penn State has played high-level defense prior, without these bigger defensive tackles. Like, that's always kind of been the staple around here. But I do think that Danton Lynn has a really good formula in place, and now it's just kind of seeing it come to fruition.
Yeah, and I think, that being said, I don't think there are, you have to be that big on the defensive line to be successful. I think it's a way to do it that is probably more likely to get you where you need to go. I think there are situations where you take outliers. Like Zane Durant was an outlier.
Yeah,
he's an unbelievable athlete. You don't see guys that size at 6'1", 2. I think by then he was like 285, something like that. Succeed at defensive tackle, but he did because he's an unbelievable athlete and had a very high motor. Yeah. I just think you take too many of those guys and you rely on too many outliers and too many things to go your way that maybe, you're trying to hit on a bunch of 10th percentile outcomes or 90th percentile outcomes, and it's just becomes less and less likely. And so I would say this is a higher probability outcome to just take these massive defensive tackles that can contribute, be space eaters in the pass rush, and the running game. You have guys that can push the pocket too. Someone like Armstrong and Nadeem is good at that. I think they believe the upside there. And so it's going to look different. I don't know that it's guaranteed to be better, but I feel like the floor is higher with that group, and that should free up those pass rushers, right? And I think Max Granville is someone that we've talked about has gotten a lot bigger, a lot stronger. I've said that I don't know that he's going to be the starter on the edge because I do think this is going to be funky in what this defense looks like pretty often. I don't think that it is going to be a situation where you have, like you said, that 1A guy. But I do think that Max Granville kind of has the upside to get there as long as he can stay healthy. And that is kind of a big if for him at this point. Yeah,
I think this is the part where you say, like, again, the guy who you maybe see week 1 versus the guy you see week 4 or 5 has to be different, has to be better, has to be more comfortable. And I think he's certainly trending that way. I mean, I think you look at what he's been able to do this preseason, like there have been moments where you're like, yeah, this looks like a guy who's healthy, looks like he's fully back. Again, I've thrown it out there a lot, but like keep in mind, Max Granville last played a game when Penn State was on the cusp of going to the national championship, right? That loss to Notre Dame was the last time he was in a game. That is a long layover, right? Like that is a challenge. But yeah, I mean, I think the depth there is kind of a big part of it. One of Danton Lynn's big tenets, right, of his defense, one of his big principles, and he went over this when we had him on the show this summer, is obnoxious communication. And he wants these guys to over communicate. And that's something that we saw play out this preseason because as they were testing the Beaver Stadium sound system, blasting out everywhere, and, within 15 miles of the stadium, it felt like. That was an opportunity for those guys to work on communication, right? You're going to see a lot of hand signals. You're going to see guys echoing calls. It's still to be determined whether Danton Lynn is up top or down on the field. He told us on Tuesday when he met with the media that he's done both this preseason. So, the thought process from Matt Campbell last week was that Danton Lynn would likely be up top. Or I'm sorry, that he would likely be on the field and Mauser would be up top. But
did I miss something?
I mean, who's to say? No. But again, that could still, like, there is still a scenario where Danton Lynn is up top because, as he said Tuesday, like, this comes down to that communication piece and the obnoxious communication and making sure these guys are on the same page. Cooper Ebel is expected to wear the green dot. This is, somebody that all spring, he wore it for the blue-white game. Again, you talk about communication pieces, making sure you can get everybody aligned correctly. That is a massive opportunity for him to be that guy. But also, these guys are all going to be stepping into a home environment next week that is going to be loud when the defense is on the field. So, like, your communication is going to be tested, which is so funny because we often think about it from the other perspective. Okay, the offense is on the field. It's going to be really loud. They're on the road. How do they handle this? Well, yeah, this is going to be the defense having to make sure they can communicate. And sure, you can get away with some blown assignments and whatnot. You don't want it to happen, but you can get away with it in non-conference play sometimes, certainly more than you can once Big Ten play ramps up. And John, we did find out too, while I'm thinking of this and mentioning Big Ten play ramping up.
Yeah.
Big news today.
Huge
big news.
Unexpected
I want everyone
news.
to act surprised. Biggest news of Penn State Day. The whiteout will be held October 10th against USC at 7:30 p.m. on NBC. So there it is.
Yes.
It's official. We told you this for months. If you were listening, if you're willing to listen, that's your reward.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where I think Penn State wanted to know that was going to be a night game, right? Like, they did not want some last second change to happen and suddenly that game's kicking off at noon or 3:30 because NBC doesn't want it, right? They wanted confirmation from NBC. That came in recently, I'll say, and they got it. And so then they were able to make this formal announcement and, able to say that this is going to be the whiteout, what have you. So yeah, it was always going to be USC. There's nothing sort of changing on that front as long as they knew that it was going to be at night and then they could, go with it. But yes, that was announced today along with the other theme games. It
was game theme day. Yeah.
Yeah. The helmet stripe game is going to be against Wisconsin, which is ostensibly the whiteout with 2 sections of blue or like 4 whatever it is, like straight up
sneaky whiteout
the middle. Yeah. And so I think, that'll be interesting to see. Homecoming, that's the first Big Ten game under Matt Campbell. That should be a pretty good environment. But you're right. The communication part for the defense is so crucial because this group, it's their first time playing together. And you have those missed assignments that are going to happen, but you don't want them to happen because someone didn't hear the call. And you'd rather have them happen for other reasons. And so I think they need to get through that phase of this first. Otherwise, like, I don't know. We'll talk more about the defense on Thursday. When we do our season preview, we're going to go way too in depth on everything on Thursday, as we tend to do. But barring you having anything else from Danton Lynn, I think we can go ahead and get to the chat where we have a bunch of questions today.
Yeah, I think we should get to the chat. I just want the record to show that I got a new router over the weekend as well. I had to go to Best Buy during move-in weekend to get a new router. So I got my Wi-Fi fixed, and then John's been freezing a little bit on me tonight. So
Yeah,
I'm a little worried.
No, I gotta run
because I can't finish this show on my own. I don't know what buttons to click. So
yeah, I'm aware. Don't worry, I'm not getting disconnected. It's just dealing with an extender issue, and I'll take care of it. Anyways, first question here. Which do you think is more likely on Penn State's first offensive series against Marshall? Conservative try to hit a home run. This offense is going to try and hit home runs as often as possible. They are going to hunt big plays, and I would expect that to be the case early. And I wouldn't be surprised if offensive coordinator Taylor Mauser is trying to sort of make a splash in that first drive. So yeah, that's sort of the expectation there. This was asked last week.
Matt Campbell will probably say.
Oh yes.
Matt Campbell will probably say, "I want a 15-play, 8-minute drive." Like that's But yeah, I don't see that happening. I see the big play coming.
Yeah. Question here that I just want to bring up because we'll get to it next or on Thursday. We got asked this last week too. Who would you say is the X factor? We'll get to that this week. That'll be more of a big picture thing that we'll talk about on Thursday about player exceeding the preseason expectations. Let's see. What is going on with Anthony Donko? Is he actually practicing? I expect Donko to start week 1. I don't think anything is an issue there. I would be surprised.
Yeah, he's been good. He's been comfortable. I think that right side, he's back where he feels most comfortable too. I think that's the other part. Yeah, I think again, I don't see any surprises with that offensive line. We've outlined it before, but we'll go through it again. Left to right, I say Malachi Goodman. I say Trevor Bohr. I say center Brock Riker. I say right guard Cooper Cousins, and I say right tackle Anthony Donko.
Yep, and that's the main 5. Yeah, and I think the primary backups you're looking at
Sexton.
I would say Owen Alasini, Via Ikakula, and Dom Rowley. Once everyone's healthy, that's probably your top 8 that you're looking at.
You forgot Garrett Sexton, John, but you were breaking up, so maybe you said him.
I didn't. I think Alasini's the top guy
interesting.
on the outside. What do you guys think of OSU moving Smith down to the Y to make room for other guy? For another guy. Makes me wonder if they'd ever move Solo to the Y for Brookins/Jones Jr. I think this is, you're going to have 2 outside guys more often than not with Sowell and Eskildson. I think the slot is going to be Kobe Howard when they have him out there. That'll be your F right there. But I don't. This is a 2 receiver group, right? Like I think this is going to be those 2 guys more often than not.
I'm good, John. I'm good. That's all. We're good. Yeah, no, we're good. I'm just worried. I'm trying to breeze through because of the Wi-Fi.
It's fine. If the North Carolina Board of Directors had manipulated UNC into hiring Bill Belichick, would Coach Campbell be coaching at UNC instead? I think this is one that's true and very funny of the Bill Belichick situation, how it played out. This is one of the few scenarios where Matt Campbell leaves Iowa State, Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State, Notre Dame.
I think early on there was thoughts that West Virginia would have been in play because of the regional mix there. I think that was an early on, like Matt Campbell type of deal. But yeah, I mean, I think these there were always a handful of jobs that were kind of in that mix. But yeah, I think it's those premier ones for sure.
Yeah, and I think at this point with where he was at with Iowa State, West Virginia was probably not going to be in play. Can this defense get us back closer to the Manny Diaz Penn State defense? Maybe not 2023, but 2022. I think from a level of play, yes. I don't think it's going to look like that. I think it is going to look, this may scare some people, much more like last year's defense from a schematic standpoint than Manny Diaz and Tom Allen.
That's reassuring, John. That's what people want to hear. That's reassuring.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I think they're doing a better job of emphasizing the teaching of it this year and making sure that they're understanding and not just learning, right? Like, I think that's important here. And then one last question before we get going. Which former Penn State assistant coach, currently head coach, is going to have the best upcoming season?
Ooh, that's a good question. Man. Well, sorry, can't say what I was going to say. Can't say it.
All right, I guess you'll just have to say it after the show. Can't
say it.
I think it's a good question. I probably Manny Diaz off the top. I'm trying to think who was even getting consideration here, right? It's Ricky Ronnie. It's Charles Huff.
Joe
at
Moorhead.
Memphis. Joe Moorhead with the situation there and them.
Yeah,
like a fan
hell of a
call
situation
plays.
there.
Charles Huff at Memphis is probably a good choice, and I think probably who I would go with, unless I'm missing someone off the top of my head, which I could be. I mean, I do that all the time.
No, that's like one I'd have to sit with for a while. That's a tough off the top of the head one.
Yeah, we'll circle back to that one Thursday.
Ronnie's done a really nice job, but I have no idea where their roster is at. Spoiler:
they
I
lost.
haven't been keeping tabs on ODU football.
Well, losing their starting quarterback to Wisconsin is not great. Anyways, I think that is probably a good place to leave it. We will be back on Thursday, as Audrey said, at 7:00. We will be live with our very long season preview show that will take a very long time to do. Until then, if you would like to read, yes, it always does. If you'd like to read all of Audrey's work, you can find it insidethelines.substack.com. You can find her on Twitter at OddSnyder4 and on Blue Sky at OddSnyder, AudreySnyder.bsky.social. You can find me at the Center Daily Times at centerdaily.com. You can find me on Twitter at John Sauber and on Blue Sky at johnsauber.bsky.social. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, don't forget to leave those 5-star ratings and reviews. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit the thumbs up button. Please hit the subscribe button down below. It greatly helps us out. Bring your questions on Thursday. We will answer everything. We will talk about a bunch of things. We will play the preseason prediction game that I will feed Audrey in, and she will owe me a second round of karaoke. But until 2 days from now, thank you for tuning in. Have a great day.